Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Software Plaza podcast. I'm Twain Taylor, editor at Software Plaza, and each week I bring you a new conversation from a vendor who's building something in the cloud native space. Could be a startup, could be an enterprise, sometimes it's an open source project, but all of them are solving different problems, taking different approaches, but all in the CNCF, the cloud native space. And today I'm going to be talking with Ramiro Berrelleza, who's the founder and CEO of Okteto. And it's, I think, a second, no, it's his third time, I think, coming on here chatting with us. And it's always a riot when I chat with him because he comes up with really interesting insights and the way he explains them. It's very uh, it's provocative. It makes you think, and he has some interesting ideas that you won't hear, uh, usually. And I just wanted to read the tagline on their website of Okteto. It says, "Fast teams, slow environments. Fix that." Built for teams managing microservices, adopting AI workflows, or scaling rapidly. And the last time Ramiro was here, we spoke about microservices and we spoke about automating deployment pipelines. And he gave us an interesting demo where he built an automated deployment pipeline and he actually did a live deployment right before us in just a few minutes. And it was quite amazing. Today, we're going to be talking about the second part of that tagline, which is adopting AI workflows. That's going to be the main focus of our conversation because since the last time Ramiro was here, he's been heads down working on AI, building stuff in the product. And so I really wanted to get him on the podcast again to ask what he's been up to and to tell us about it. So, Ramiro, welcome back. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you, Twain. I'm excited to be back third time. Can't believe it. I was when I was preparing for the podcast, I was kind of looking back at our previous conversations and wow, I mean, have things changed, especially in the last few weeks. Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me, and really looking forward to chatting more with you about AI workflows and the impact they're having on
Yeah,
developers.
absolutely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to all that you have to say because I think you say some of the most interesting stuff that I hear from any guest. So I'm quite looking forward to it. I'd like to get us started off with asking you what's been happening over the past 1 year, because I think the past 1 year has been maximum change in a lot of ways for a lot of organizations, for a lot of people in the space. And kind of judging from things you're talking about on social media and all of that, it seems like you and Okteto have as well been going through a lot of change in the past year. Tell us about the past year and what are some of what's the big update since we last spoke?
Yeah, a lot has happened in the last 12 months. You know, for me, the biggest personal change that I've gone through is that I really went from being kind of AI skeptic to
Okay.
being kind of like full on, drinking the Kool-Aid, give me more AI kind of thing. I recently shared a
Mm,
quote where I really now believe that it's no longer a matter of like, hey, should we use agents? Should we use AI? Now it's more about which one and how am I going to start using them?
right,
And
right.
that has the biggest change. And I have to say, I'm still fascinated by the velocity of this change. In my
Mm,
role as the CEO of Okteto, I have the pleasure of talking to a lot of engineering leaders of
mhm.
everything from like super early age stage startups all the way to very seasoned leaders of large enterprises. And it is fascinating that there's this super common thread around
Mm,
AI, and
mhm.
specifically, because it's my field, the impact of AI on software organizations. Everything from productivity, security, cost, the impact of AI on junior engineering talent. It's amazing how the entire industry really is having the same conversation. Like, It's this
Okay.
alignment that you see very rarely, which
Yeah.
to me, it's always a sign that we're in the right direction. I went through the
Mm.
same thing when cloud became a thing. Remember there was a moment where
2000.
people were like, is it real? Is it just for startups? It's
Yeah.
impossible for us to trust a
Yeah.
vendor with all of our hardware. And now it's
Mm.
kind of like the standard, no?
That's
Like
how it
you
is.
go to cloud first and then you go to on-prem for certain things. So it's kind of the same
Mm.
thing. So that
Mm.
has forced us without really realizing to move the direction of the company there as well. No, what started as 12 months ago, we had this idea of
Mm.
a feature for AI agents that we call Okteto AI agent fleets, which was the idea of 12 months ago. Developers are gonna manage multiple agents, and we need to give them tools to do that.
Mm.
Ended up, yeah, we were right. What I thought would take 2, 3 years took less than 12 months. Today, developers are now using agents for everything, all the
Mm.
time. It's fascinating. So that made Okteto change, and we are really in this phase of rethinking our entire product
Mm.
into like who are we serving? Our
Right.
guiding light remains the same, and it's in our tagline, no? Slow, fast teams beat slow teams all the time.
Right.
So how can we help teams be faster through software?
Mm-hmm.
Before it was helping humans through like automated dev environments. Now,
Yeah.
as humans kind of take a step back and let
Mm-hmm.
agents do it, now
Mm-hmm.
we're rethinking our solution as how can we make it easier for humans to engage with agents so that they can be faster. So it's been fascinating. We're building a lot, talking a lot with our customers, but it's really a very exciting time of the industry. And it's like sometimes I feel back to like when I was in college, when I was learning to code, and like every day
Mm-hmm.
you're learning something new. And the same way with agents, no, every day we're seeing them develop new capabilities. We see our customers leverage them in different ways, and it's very exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's an interesting opener there. I found it intriguing and interesting that you said you're now switching from automation to helping humans use agents so that they can move faster. And makes me wonder then, um would the human still be your primary end user and customer and like who you're building for primarily, and the agent is more the tool of that the human uses, and secondarily you think of the agent, or do you feel like agents are going to be equal to humans when it comes to the developer experience? Yeah, I've got some quotes. Let me actually read
Uh-huh.
these quotes from your LinkedIn and from your blog. One of the quotes says, agents are quickly becoming first-class contributors to enterprise code bases, but there's a growing disconnect between what demos promise and what engineering teams experience and practice. This is from your blog.
Uh-huh.
And there's another one from, I think, your LinkedIn, which is the AI factory is the what, the developer platform is the how. I think that's really catchy and that's really interesting. And I'd like you to unpack this for us.
Right. Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I think you're really touching on one of the fundamental challenges that everybody in the dev tools ecosystem is grasping with, which is, and I really like the question is, are we building for agents or are we building for humans?
Hmm.
And the way I answered this, I mean, kind of took me a while to kind of get to a something I like, but to me, the answer is we're always building for humans because software developer tools have always been about enabling teams to do something. Nobody uses a developer tool for the sake of it. You
Hmm.
know, if you have, you can pick anything, no? You have an
Hmm.
IDE because you're writing code, and you're writing code because you want to automate something that your business requires in order to
Right.
fulfill their mission.
Yeah.
And the same goes for anything. No, a database exists because it's storing data, not because you want to have a database. It's about the data. So I think
Mm,
with agents becoming more and more mainstream, it's the same thing.
okay.
The consumer of the developer tool is the engineer, the team, the organization. They are the ones that have a problem that needs to be solved.
Mm-hmm.
Who is the end user? It's a different story. And I think that is the most interesting change, which is when I started Octeto, one of my very initial kind of like vision was I wanna optimize how long it takes from the moment that you type a code change to when you see that reflected on an environment that looks like production. And we built Octeto up and we built our platform and everything. And we deliver on that vision. No? And Octeto today gives you the fastest experience in writing and typing and seeing the result in a fully integrated environment on Kubernetes.
Mm-hmm.
But as we shift towards agents, that's an example of things that are now less important. Because now I'm not typing code.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm telling an agent, I need this done.
Right.
And I'm going to explain to the agent what is the definition of success, what are my restrictions, my requirements, my constraints, and then the
Mm-hmm.
agent is going to go do something and show me a result. So if we believe in that world, and I believe in that world as being the short-term future, then you have to rethink your tools for that end user, but without forgetting that the person who's going to choose the tool is the human. The person who's going to
Mm-hmm.
buy the tool is the VP of engineering still. So it's an interesting change, but I think that we cannot forget, and we need to go back to our fundamentals of
Mm-hmm.
what is software for, what are tools for, which is why I also, as one of my hot takes, I don't believe this vision of the software engineering as a discipline is gone. If anything, I believe is the opposite. Now we can do so much more than before. We can do a lot
Mm-hmm.
more sophisticated stuff than before, and I think that's only gonna make our profession more important than ever. You know, the same way that 30 years ago there were less computers and there was
Mm-hmm.
less sophisticated, programming languages,
Mm-hmm.
and the better they got, the bigger the influence of tech became.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's coming in the next 10 years is gonna be 100x what we saw
Wow.
when in the last 20, 30 years. It's a very exciting. I'm very excited to be in this space right now. And it takes conviction.
Yeah.
And of course you have to make bets. And the future is uncertain, but I'd rather be part of building the future and
Mm-hmm.
being wrong than you sitting on the sidelines and waiting for something to happen. So, but
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
that's a big way of saying that the human side is still in charge. I think tools need to adapt to this new reality where typing code is becoming a commodity, but
Okay.
creating value and making hard engineering decisions, that
Mm-hmm.
is going to be very scarce and will continue to be scarce.
Yeah. Really interesting, really exciting. I think it's quite optimistic, your view. And I've read and heard even on conversations here with others about how it can be dystopian that AI is going to take over everything and that it's going to replace most jobs and there's going to be mass layoffs and all of that. And you read all of that in the news, but it's good to hear an optimistic view that AI is going to create much more jobs than computers created before. And quite interesting that you said software is not going anywhere. It's going to be all the more important. I was wanting to get your views on just what do you think the role of the software developer is going to be and how it's going to change, given that agents are doing the coding um, and moving more from boilerplate, they're going to become smarter and smarter to where they're going to go beyond boilerplate. And what's the role of the software engineer for a software engineer who's listening to this, maybe at a mid-level, who's thinking about all of this and saying, how do I steer my career from here? What would you tell that person?
Yeah, that's actually a conversation I've been having a lot lately with a lot of mid-level junior engineer and junior engineers.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I mean, there's no clear answers. I don't think anybody knows, but my take is number one, it's very important not to fight the trends. I think
Right.
by now it's very obvious that AI is going to become an important part of our toolkit. Maybe it's not going to be this future where like everything is agentic, but they do enough work that, for example, I went from, oh, this AI thing, whatever, it doesn't work, to now pretty much everything I do,
Mm-hmm.
it's AI assisted
Right.
at some point, no? Whether it is
Yeah.
data gathering, whether it is writing tests, whether it is validating my ideas, like there's
Mm-hmm.
always there. So it's very important for everybody
Yeah.
to get good. Like it's a big paradigm shift. We're gonna go
Mm-hmm.
through a period of adaptation, and I've seen this on every single technological change, you know? There's always
Mm-hmm.
this period of time where like very few believe, a lot of people are pushing back on it.
Yeah.
Then there's this period where people are experimenting and trying to figure it out. And that's where we
Mm-hmm.
are right now, no? The period where we're gonna try to bring the old things but with the new tools, no? And I always example of when Docker became a thing, the
Mm-hmm.
first reaction of people was like, okay, I'm gonna take a VM, cram it in a container, and run it. And we were
Mm-hmm.
doing that for a few years, and then people were like, wait, no, that makes no sense. What we need to do is move to this microservice-based architectures where every container is one service, there's Lemur, there's whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense, and every technological adoption goes like that. No, it takes time to figure things out. So I think it's very important for everybody to don't miss on that. No, experiment, try things, try different tools. Right now, there are very few best practices, very few written rules. So it's a good time to experiment. I think that's very
Right.
important because I think that getting as AI native as possible is going to make a huge advantage
Mm-hmm.
because you're going to be competing in the labor market with people that don't know how to use those tools, who
Mm-hmm.
don't know how to, and it's all about, again, not about the tools. It's about what can you do with them because I
Right.
can ship more features per week if I'm
Right.
using an agent just to run my tests and just to write more tests. Just that
Mm-hmm.
probably gives me a 20-30% velocity increase compared
Mm-hmm.
to, let's say, you are the opposite and you're like, no, I'm going to do everything by hand. The same way that using an IDE makes you faster, the same way that, like code completion tools and CI makes you faster. So that's very important. I think for junior engineers, like people who are starting their careers,
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of uncertainty. But that's
Mm-hmm.
where getting good at the craft, understanding that it's not about the code. It was never
Mm-hmm.
about the code. Good
Right.
engineers, senior, really senior engineers, understand that it's about solving problems.
Right.
And engineering is about solving problems in the most effective way while
Mm-hmm.
understanding your constraints. Getting good at that will never go out of fashion. Getting good
Right.
at writing very tight, like Java code, might not be as
Mm-hmm.
useful anymore. But learning the fundamentals, understanding the pieces, it's going to be key because even as we move into this world of AI software factories where, agents take a product definition from you and they send you an outcome, you as
Mm-hmm.
engineer need to know how to define those requirements, need to know how to explain what you want. And more importantly, which I think is one of the biggest bottlenecks today, you need to be good at evaluating if what you're getting back is correct. Because
Right.
AI is really bad at that right now. Like they need
Mm-hmm.
this definition of success so they can
Mm-hmm.
then iterate and get better at it. But if you just tell them I want X and you get back something that is not quite what you wanted, having the skills to express why that is not what you're expecting makes a huge difference when using AI tools. And honestly, it always made a big difference because the people I learned that I look up to as I was growing my career were the kind of engineers that were able to tell me, no, Ramiro, this, what you're showing me is not correct. This is why. This is why I need to go back and do it again. Is
Mm,
that a skill of expressing your requirements and evaluating the outcomes, not focusing too much on the lines of code? I don't think that's ever gonna go away, and
yeah.
it's something that we all need to get better at. Like it's amazing how I'm getting better at management, I think.
Mm,
Maybe my team might say otherwise, but I feel I'm getting better because as I interact with agents, it's forcing me to develop these skills around just
mm,
explain your context, explain your
yeah.
ideas. So I think that applies to everything, and it will make us all better professionals, better engineers, and that will result in higher quality software that will result in more things being touched by software than ever before. And I'm
Mm,
really optimistic that this will turn into the same way that, I'm old enough that I remember life before phones and life
mm,
before having data on your phone and how much easier it is to do things
mm,
like call a car from your phone or send,
yeah.
my family in Mexico a picture of something that just happened to me via WhatsApp. That wasn't
Mm,
possible 20 years ago.
yeah.
In 20 years ago, imagine everything is going to be possible. That's why I'm so excited. And I think that's where tech is going to play a very important role. And I hope more people get into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Some really optimistic words there. We've covered quite a bit, I think, just focusing on the human side of this equation. I wanted to talk about the agent side because it seems like that's where you put in a lot of your effort in the past year, and I want to really bring out some of that. I want to read another quote from your blog post, which it says, the gap isn't model intelligence or prompt sophistication. It's that agents lack access to the runtime feedback loops that human developers rely on constantly. This is part of your blog post and talking about
Mhm.
just probably the wrong way of doing uh, platform engineering when you're doing AI, using AI agents. Give us some context around this and talk to us about some of the challenges organizations are facing as they are integrating agents into their software workflows. What are some of the anti-patterns you're seeing, and what does this quote mean?
Yeah. So, you know how I was talking a couple of minutes ago about the importance of defining kind of what success looks like and your requirements?
Mm-hmm.
That I see today as the biggest challenge that organizations have when they adopt agents.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you take it at the agent level, you're going to give the agent a task. Coding. I want this feature implemented. Today, a lot of companies are adopting agents, us included. And then you have, Cloud Code or Devin or whatever. No? And this is not a this on any of them. They all work really well. It's where we are as an industry.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're gonna go do some work. The challenge is that these agents are relying on the code base and their knowledge to produce an outcome. And we've learned this in many disciplines, and especially with modern cloud native applications, the code is only one facet of your application.
Mm-hmm.
But if you ignore configuration, security, network, runtime concerns, dependencies, your definition of success is very limited. I see this as the equivalent of me reviewing code by just looking at the source code of the one thing that changed versus being able to understand the implications of this change in my entire application.
Mm-hmm.
That is what we're focused on. And that's why I think right now is missing is how can we give agents a
Mm-hmm.
runtime where they can run an end-to-end test. If I ask my agent, hey, build me this feature, add this, I don't know, this new API to my service, or worst, modify an API on my service, no, fix a bug.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the agent knows, okay, you asked me for this, here's the code. Let's say unit tests are passing. Great.
Mm-hmm.
But the agent has no way of knowing if this change on this API is going to break another team that takes a dependency on this. Or
Right.
if this is going to break because the agent is running on a VM, on a sandbox, but The agent is not running on Kubernetes, it's not using Argo, it's not running with like a secret manager on like a limited security configuration because of permissions. So it's a very different world. So what we are advocating with Okteto, and we're really investing a lot of our AI feature is we are building the pieces so that agents can now get a better understanding of your application, of your microservices, of your entire end-to-end experience. And that
Mhm.
way, they can include this in their validations, which then will result in higher quality code, which then will result in code you can trust and accept and make it go to production. Because one of the biggest bottlenecks we see with our customers as they adopt AI is that most of the code changes stay on the PR stage because the quality is not sufficient, because a human needs to actually do the testing to make sure they're not breaking something else, because it's unclear what the dependencies are. And we hear that a lot. And that's one of the, I think right now, one of the biggest areas of disappointment where CTOs are investing a lot of money into AI
Mhm.
and they're not seeing the actual promised
Mhm.
outcome at the end, which is are we shipping more features? And
Yeah.
to me, and that's why my company is making this bet, is the lack of a real environment of an easy, fast way for the agent to know that the code works with all the constraints that enterprise applications have is a huge gap and something that is really preventing software factories, copilots, from being as independent and as fast as they could be.
Mhm. Well, interesting. There's two follow-up questions I have, but I'm wondering which one to go with first. Uh, I like that you mentioned I found it interesting that you mentioned you're building the pieces that agents need. Maybe they're related actually, and I wanted to ask you what are those pieces and how are they similar or different to the pieces that we are familiar with that software developers have used in the past and use today? Are these pieces different or new, or are they repackaged things from before that are just tweaked a bit for agents? That was my first question. And then I wanted to get into environments. Maybe we could go with the
Uh-huh.
first question and then we'll get into environments some more.
They are all interconnected
Mm,
because, and I'm sure you've noticed by now that as I talk to agents, I have this tendency to kind of like humanize it a bit. And I
mm,
do it because I do think that we have to think of agents the same way that we think of developers, in the sense that for a developer to do a good job, they need to have a good dev experience. They need to have context of the problem. They need to have a good manager to guide them. And they have
mm.
to need to understand what done, the definition of done.
Definition of done. Yeah.
Agents, I do subscribe to this school of thought, I guess, that agents, developers managing agents, is very similar relationship where you have to tell the agents the same. They need code, they need a clean experience, they need a definition of done, and they need someone to steer them towards success
Mm,
when
mm,
things are not working out.
mm,
So, from a pieces perspective, to me, this looks a lot like what we've been advocating for with Okteto for a while, which is automated environments that are disposable, ephemeral is right now the word that most people use, fast, and
mm,
that look as close to production as possible. And that's why I wrote
mm,
a blog post where I do feel, very strongly the environment piece is missing. Because when you see out there, like the big agentic companies, they're all moving to this direction of agent on a sandbox. But the sandbox, it's a very fast VM, and that's very important. No, you need the agent to actually run somewhere. You don't want the agent to run your laptop because security and identity problems. But then the
mm,
challenge is, okay, I want my agent to deploy a database. But I want the database to have data that looks like production. I want my agent to be able to build a container and make sure my Docker file definition is correct. I want to make sure that the agent validates that the code change I just made is going to be able to run with the security constraints of my production cluster. That is where the environment makes a big help. And a lot of what we've been building is the pieces to make this a reality. And I have a demo I want to show you in a second. But last
Right.
year, when I show you what our first iteration of this vision, our
Hmm.
first iteration was a highly opinionated, asynchronous,
Yeah.
throw a task at an agent, agent goes, does, and you get a result. That is
Hmm.
still valid, but that's not for everybody. We're now observing there's like a spectrum
Okay.
where some organizations want, hey, just give me this software factory where I have a Slack message where I'm gonna describe the problem. I'm gonna add mention my software factory, and the factory will take it, build something, and then just send me a PR or a link with the environment where this is running. No, all the
Hmm.
way to other organizations which they are like, no, I have my own platform. I just need the pieces to provision an environment, to do builds on
Hmm.
demand, to assign data based on agentic requirements.
Hmm.
So we decided to build for that spectrum. We have this highly opinionated solution, but what
Hmm.
I want to show you today is how you can also use the pieces we are now making available
Hmm.
to meet the developers where they are. And some developers want more control. They want to like directly tell the agent what to do, see the code, analyze before pushing. Others just want to meet the agent on CI, be like, hey, tell me the test pass. If the test pass, go with it. I don't care. And everything in between. So that's how we see the world. And that's why I
Hmm.
think, as agents increase developer productivity, the current systems are breaking. The current idea of CI, the current idea of how we do code review, they cannot handle a 10x or 100x increase in productivity. Like having to review 10x more PRs is not sustainable. Having to run 100x more CI pipelines in your infrastructure is not sustainable. So a lot of
Hmm.
companies, Okteto is one of them, but there's more in the space. We're all kind of thinking, what does dev experience means for the agentic world? How can we make it fast,
Right.
high fidelity, but also affordable because cost, infra cost, people cost, token cost, it all matters too. So
Hmm.
that's the world we've been moving into,
Yeah.
and it's very exciting. And we're working with some very well-known companies that we can name into them adapting their software factories to start bringing in some of this environment primitives into their agents, and they're getting pretty good results.
Awesome. Yeah, you kind of answered in this response my other follow-up question that I had about environments, but probably I'd ask you something along those lines about environments. And one of the things I hear you repeating is focus on the word fast. And it seems to be really in your DNA and Okteto's DNA in the way you build your product. It's about moving fast. I mean, it's on your website, the first words you read. So I'm wondering just how you apply that to an AI world. And of course, AI is known to quicken processes and all of that. Uh, but at the same time, there's this other side to it where, you don't want to compromise on security, reliability, those things that are very, essential. But talk to us about environments because I was reading this quote from your blog post, which it says you can have the most capable AI infrastructure on the planet, and developers will still be blocked if they can't iterate against it fast. They'll be waiting on environment provisioning. Their agents will be writing code they can only test in production. That's quite interesting because it talks about this idea that developers would wait if you can't provision environments fast enough. I was wanting to just get more of your thoughts. You already kind of touched on it in your previous response. What does it mean to create environments fast? How does that actually work in practice? Tell us a bit more.
Yeah, so fast, you're right, it's in our DNA, it's something that we value a lot. And one of the things that is very important is fast you have to be fast to the outcome, not fast to the next step. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's where a lot of people get it wrong because and let's anchor that on what we're discussing. If you have amazing AI infrastructure and you have all these agents and they're giving you code and it takes a second to implement a feature, right? And you have the code. But if it takes you 5 days for that code to make it to production, then you're not fast. And I think a lot of people, and I was alluding to that earlier, don't really do the thorough analysis of understanding where are the bottlenecks.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the infra and the environments come into picture because feedback
Mm-hmm.
loops have been a big problem, especially in the cloud native world. As applications become more complex, knowing if
Mm-hmm.
your code works, not if your code works on its own, because that's meaningless anymore. Like,
Mm-hmm.
is my code works in the context of will my customers be enabled, no, by this change? Will it work end to end? We still talk to a lot of companies where the end-to-end phase of testing it's only done after you merge your changes or on a staging or behind a feature flag on production.
Mm-hmm.
And doing it in each of these spaces means the feedback loop is much longer.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter if you're writing code fast. If the full verification takes long, and then let's take the worst case, no? You go to production with a feature flag, and then you discover that your code doesn't work. Then you have to go all the way back to the beginning. You have to
Mm-hmm.
stop what you're doing. You have to do the new thing, regain all that context. Even if you have agents helping you, like the process itself is going to be longer. So
Mm-hmm.
as companies adopt AI and tools, all this, it's very important to not lose track that it's all about the outcome. Make sure you understand your bottlenecks, make sure you address them. Because, and this is something that's, I'm going back to the skills people need to have, no? This is systems thinking 101. Systems are interconnected, and fixing a problem in one area, typically, if you're not careful, leads to creating more problems on different
Okay.
areas, no? If I make
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, the ingress bigger, but my queues can handle more capacity, you're just
Mm-hmm.
overloading your queues. You're
Yeah.
maybe receiving more requests per second, but you're not processing them, so your outcome is not faster. So that's what happens a lot with agents, and that's why I've always spoken a lot about the importance of self-service, guardrails, of having environments fast on demand.
Mm-hmm.
And all these problems I had that made me start Okteto 6, 7 years ago
Mm-hmm.
are only getting bigger.
Okay.
Because no, like before, a developer was able to do one thing at a time, no, maybe two. Now with agents, you can do five, six at a time. That's multiplying by six the need for environments, the risk of something not working, the
Mm-hmm.
needs of waiting for somebody else to provision a test bed for you to go and validate your changes. So the more we automate the full life cycle and not just the coding part of it, the sooner we're gonna get to this quote unquote promised land of ultimate productivity with AI agents.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I think you just gave out my favorite quote from all that you said so far. Fast to the outcome, not fast to the next step. I think that's really insightful. And I'm going to put that first up in when I'm posting this on
Nice.
LinkedIn.
I love it. Love it.
Yeah. So with that said, I think it's demo time. I'm
Yeah,
really
let's do
curious
it. Let's do it. I've been aching to show
what
you this.
Okteto do.
Let me share
Yeah.
my screen. And so just as a reminder, especially for those in your audience who probably didn't see the previous episode. Okteto is all about dev environments on demand. We started with being for developers, and last year we launched Okteto AI, which is what you're seeing on your screen. Which is here you can see it's a platform where I just give my agent a prompt. In this case, I said, please update. Let me make the screen bigger. Update to the latest major version of all components and make sure that it builds and deploys successfully. And here's where we start to see the benefit of environments and agents, all these things. This is what I showed you last year. Is our very opinionated, completely asynchronous way of interacting with agents.
Mm-hmm.
And this agent is an application we have. It has Postgres, it has Go, it had a bunch of old dependencies. We were getting all these pings because vulnerabilities and whatnot. So I got it running. And the agent is doing all its things, but I'm gonna go speedrun to the end because what I like about this is this. The agent says, okay, I was able to successfully commit. Here are the change, here are the branch, and I couldn't create a PR, the agent. But what's important here is this thing on the right, endpoints. What the agent is showing me here is proof that the work the agent did worked. If I click on this link, you'll see that, wrong one, this one. Well, if it worked, live demo, but I'll show you in a second the other demo. That link is the proof of, hey, my changes work. So this is fully asynchronous. This is what we showed you last time, but what I want to show you this time, what I want to spend more time on, is the new way of doing things, which is I'm not looking at code, I'm managing multiple agents, and my agents know what they're doing. Very similar to the previous approach. You can see here that I have, this is Cloud Code. I'm using
Okay.
this terminal called CMOX that I really like.
Mhm.
So kudos to the CMOX team. It's a new terminal built for agentic development. So you can see it's easier to have multiple things open and whatnot.
Oh,
But here you can see the important aspect of this is this. I open Cloud Code. I tell, hey, deploy an environment. I want you to add a /health endpoint to the API service. And I want that to return the namespace, the host name, CPU, my request configurations, then run the tests. And if everything works out, open a pull request for me.
wow, that's complex.
And I did this when we started our talk. I was right before joining the call. I kind of like did that and go. So you
Mm,
can see here, I'm not telling it where to run it, where to get information from, nothing. Claude is smart enough. This is using our plugin, which is one of the building blocks we're giving. Claude
mm,
has an Okteto plugin, so it knows how to use Okteto, and you can see that he understood that by deploy environment, I meant, okay, I'm going to deploy a remote environment. So you can see here in Claude's super optimistic mode, yep, it's deployed. I'm looking at the
mm,
code. I'm making all these changes. No, and you can see here the changes. It's giving me feedback. I remember
mm,
all of this happened while you and I were talking, so it was happening on the background. I didn't have to mind it. I didn't have to do any of those things. So, and these are all cloud code, but we're gonna start to some of the good, interesting things that I've been talking about before here. So it made the changes. Everything looked good. Yeah, you're adding some MVARs, makes sense. You're exposing some Kubernetes values. Excellent. Exactly what I wanted. And then we get to this point. The agent tried to access the health check to verify
mm,
that it works, and we got an error. We got a 404.
mhm,
If you see here, you can see that it's actually calling the environment remotely. It's running on Okteto on my demo cluster. And here's where the value of the environment and having access to all these pieces make it better. Because if you notice
mhm,
here, the agent did a build. So the agent now has access to a platform to build containers. It actually deployed this on a live URL with SSL and all that stuff. Something else that Okteto is giving the agent access to. And here's the interesting part to me. The agent discovered that we were missing a configuration on our ingress on Kubernetes to expose the health check. So this is what I'm speaking. When I talk about things that you can only figure out when you're running, the agent discovered a misconfiguration on the network, in this case on the ingress rules to route this specific endpoint, fix it, redeploy the application to Kubernetes, ran the health check again, validated that this health check is accessible and that it's actually responding with the information that I asked, in this case, the Kubernetes namespace and the host name and other things. It's giving me a report of the outcome. Hey, the help point is working. This is the outcome. Now it's going to run the end-to-end tests. Another piece that we're giving to the agent, a way to run end-to-end tests on Kubernetes against this environment using the same configuration you will be using in CI, on staging, all of these places. And then finally, the agent is satisfied. Okay, I did what you asked me to. I deploy, I build, I run my tests. Now I'm going to open a pull request. And then you can see it kind of like open a pull request. It gives me a summary of everything it did, the changes, and I have a pull request. So I can just go here and you can now see the code changes. But at this point, I know this code runs on Kubernetes. I know this code was tested end to end. I know that network was configured, all of those things. And that's the biggest difference in why building these pieces make agents more powerful. Because if I didn't have access to Okteto and this plugin, the agent would have made the change here. It would have sent me a PR at this point. I would have to go to the PR, review it. It'd be like, hey, looks good, merge it. And then when CI deployed this to staging, then I would have figured out, oh, right, we're missing this configuration in the network. And going back to the velocity, that makes me much slower because then I have to go back, undo that change, start from zero again, figure out what happened, all that stuff. But because we're giving the agent all these building blocks to provide a real environment with Kubernetes, with network configurations, with ingresses, with a build service to build containers, the level of trust is higher. This is code I can confidently merge, and I know that it's not going to break anything. And then here, this hooks up to our other feature that we had for years, preview environments, so that if you are the reviewer, you go here, and you can see here actually, you can see the health endpoint is here. You click on it, and you're like, yep, exactly what we asked for. Want to know namespace host them, CPU, limits, memory. And if you disagree with something, maybe you say, no, Ramiro, you should not expose this value because this could disclosing too much. Perfect. Now we're having a business level discussion. What do we need to disclose? What do we need from a requirement perspective? We're not discussing where is this value coming from, what is the best practice to get it. And that is a big change for me. And providing those pieces is how we're helping teams increase their velocity, not only by helping them use agents, but by helping their agents be more effective by being able to do more validation. And yes, you might be paying for some time because you do have to wait for the agent to deploy and build. But going back to the phrase, no, it's about being fast to the outcome, not fast to the next stage. How fast I can
Mhm.
open a PR is meaningless if my PR is going to sit there for 5 days while you and I go back and forth on this. We want the PR to be about our requirements, our business needs, our
Mhm.
scalability concerns, not about does it work, does it run end to end, and all of those things. So this is part of what we're building. This is something we just released actually a couple of weeks ago. So if anybody wants
Mhm.
to check it out, just go to okteto.com/docs. We have this new section called Agentic Workflows, where we explain our view of why environments are needed, how to get it started. Our cloud code plugin will even scaffold all the Okteto configurations you need. So it's really helping you kind of get up and running faster. And of course, as always, we're looking for feedback and to share ideas. As I said at the beginning of this conversation, this is a brand new world. There's not that many best practices, so we're all building this together, which is only more exciting, at least to me.
Yeah. Wow, fascinating demo there. There was quite a complex query that you started with a prompt, and amazing to see just the number of steps it had to run, and really, really interesting. Made me wonder though, which parts does Okteto handle? Which parts does Claude Code handle? Is there any way you could explain to us what
Yeah,
each of
yeah.
them is doing there?
Yeah, so um, Cloud Code owns the code generation. We don't do anything there. Like this is actually just vanilla Cloud Code. You put your token in your terminal, all that stuff. The part that Okteto provides is the plugin. It's a set of skills that teach Cloud how to use Okteto as part of the software development lifecycle. That is the first part we provide. It's like this best practices around this is how you validate, this is how you deploy an environment, this is how you validate, this is how you like consume it. These are the tools you have available as part of that. That's the first thing we provide. The second is the pieces to do these validations. No, Okteto gives you a build service that runs on your cluster that is very fast for building containers, so that you don't have to worry about do I have Docker running on my agent sandbox? You don't need it. It gives you access to Kubernetes in a way that is safe, that is with guardrails, with the right roles and the right level of access. Something else you don't, that the agents have to worry about. We give you automatic endpoints that you saw for SSL, the endpoint. We give you a full dashboard if you want to like monitor what the agent is doing. Like Octeto is becoming like the agentic infrastructure layer, so that
Okay.
whether you're using, I did Cloud Code on this demo because I really like it, but every month I'm switching based on which one is best. Cloud Code,
Mm-hmm.
Copilot, Cursor, Devin. We're building this for all of them. We want to be
Okay.
that layer that you can just plug it in and integrate the way we believe software should be developed, the way we believe, especially cloud native solutions, need to be validated. And so that's the pieces we provide. Octeto itself also runs on your private Kubernetes infrastructure, which for large companies is also a big win because they can run that on their own network with their own security model. They can monitor. It's not something you have to trust the outside. So it also helps them be more secure, which matters to have more visibility as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really focused on, yeah, as you scale, no? Because you want all your developers, all your agents to kind of follow the same practices. And that's how you build confidence, no? By doing the same thing multiple times and gauging the results and then seeing what happens on the other side.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Wow. Fascinating, the agentic infrastructure layer. That's quite an interesting space to be in. And congrats on your recent launch of this V1 of your agentic workflows.
Thank you.
We're almost out of time, and I wanted to just get one closing comment from you on just what's ahead as you look through the next 12 months or so. Um, any sneak peek you want to give us on, what's happening on your roadmap, or if not that, anything that you're reading in the news that you're keeping track of in the agentic AI space, anything on those lines as a closing comment.
Yeah, and of course. So the whole concept of an AI software factory is very interesting to me. And is this kind of like next evolution of agents where I'm no longer feeding kind of smaller prompts to the agent, but I'm giving the agent a big kind of like
Mm,
design document and all this context, and then the agent goes and works for hours and comes back to me. That is
wow.
something that I'm paying a lot of attention to. In the
Mm-hmm.
past couple of months, there were some really interesting articles out there from Ramp, Stripe, OpenAI. A lot of companies are building this internally, and I've been reading a lot about that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it fits really well where with what we have today and the direction we're going, which is how can we make agents more and more autonomous. And to me, the next 12 months is about that. Is how can we help organizations adopt agents, trust them, and then build the necessary pieces to make the agents not only autonomous, which is to be a step one, but also proactive, which is where you want the agents to almost, like read your mind and be ahead of the game and be like, hey, I saw you talking about this topic. Here's a proposal. Here's a feature already coded. Maybe this is what you want, kind of thing. I think that's very interesting as models evolve, as our understanding of agentic development workflows evolves. Right now, that's kind of what I'm hoping will go in that direction. So we're going to be working a lot into trying to figure out how can we make AI software factories something accessible to everybody and not just to the super sophisticated, high tech kind of companies. Because I think that as we talked about today, like software is everywhere. Software is a huge business differentiator, and the more any company can get at being better at building software, the better they'll be the better they'll do in their market. And to me, is as someone who's spent an entire career building tech, is the way you beat competition by building better systems, better solutions, and tech has a lot to do there.
Wow, that's a really interesting future there a picture that you painted for us of the future proactive agents, agents that we can trust, ones that are autonomous and that they can do work for hours, a software factory. Really fascinating. I think we have our topic for the next podcast when we do that.
Yeah, and in 12 months we can I'm sure a lot of things would have changed and we can reconnect and talk more about this. It's always a lot of fun and thank you for all the
Yeah,
questions. I really like the questions got me thinking a lot. It's exciting. I
yeah,
hope the listeners enjoy and of course, you know where to find me. I'm very active on LinkedIn and Twitter. So please everybody out there, let's keep the conversation going. We're building the future together and it's a really exciting time to be in tech.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I really enjoy having actually this multi-part conversation with you. And I think each of them just goes deeper and deeper down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, and we didn't plan it that way. I love that part, how it just organically, as
Yeah,
Okteto has evolved, as the industry, as your view
yeah.
of cloud native, it's been very interesting.
Yeah, and I really admire just your insight into just where we are at and where we are headed. And I really look forward to getting you on the show next year this time. Yeah, thanks for joining us today. It was really an interesting conversation. I quite enjoyed it. And yeah, do join us again next year.
Thank you, Trey. I enjoyed the conversation a lot, and thank you for the invite.
Yeah.
Great talking to
And
you.
yeah, and to all of our listeners and viewers, thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this as much as we did. And we hope you'll join us for the next episode. See you on that one. Bye bye.